In a galaxy wrought with corruption, two unsightly star guardians flew through the foreboding void of outer space, among the countless stars and isolated planets.
How come Zoe's always got us doing her dirty work?
Twitch grumbled, revolving around his partner as if he were a moon. Urgot the Dreadnought shot the rodent a suspicious glance. The plague rat squeaked hesitantly.
Not like I'm complaining. You know no one loves filth and getting their mitts dirty as much as me. It's just that...
Following orders is foreign to you, and I'm no advocate for them either. But she is a child of the stars themselves. Thus her omnipotence far surpasses ours.
Urgot huffed. Twitch spat.
Rule schmooze! If it were up to me, we confront those star sluts directly and sink them into a putrid oblivion!
Patience, friend. I do detest being indebted to anyone. It's a sign of weakness. Once we aid Zoe in her conquests, we'll be free to exact our own revenge. I hardly view what she says as divine law, but she did grant us these exceedingly powerful, upgraded vessels and proposed something most tempting and infinitely beneficial to us.
I don't know, something seems off about it.
Allowing doubt into you similarly denotes weakness. We are evidently more gifted than before when it comes to handling any and all nuisances that may stray onto our path. Have faith, we're nearly there.
Home sweet home, eh?
Twitch joked cynically.
Home. Rather than where one's heart is, it seems to be where one's vengeance stems.
Urgot remarked bitterly. The two streamed across the pervading Noxian night sky until they reached the roof of the most notorious nightclub in the city, Bite. Twitch sniffed around, cackling.
The stench of blood is thick here. This must be the place.
Urgot placed a firm palm between Twitch's ears and sighed.
Do not misunderstand. I am not relaying these thoughts to you because I am in a state of doubt. However, should things turn grave, you flee.
Twitch's eyes glinted uneasily, perplexed by Urgot's sudden display of emotion. He nodded in reply. Just then, the roof of the building began to open up, and a circular platform rose to greet them. Fearlessly, they stepped onto the metal disc and descended into the building. To the casual plebeian clubbers, Bite seemed to stand as a two-story building. The elite nobles, aristocrats, and politicians, on the other hand, beheld its darker depths. Beneath Bite were 9 basement levels, not a single one dedicated to frivolous dancing or drinking. Upon arriving at the 9th level, Urgot and Twitch became surrounded by a dozen figures donned in hooded robes, Crimson Circle cultists. Suddenly, an eloquent, dignified voice echoed throughout the torchlit space.
And to what or whom exactly do I owe this pleasure?
From the shadows came the Crimson Reaper, Vladimir himself. Twitch fumbled with his pause as he stuttered.
We've been summoned by the corrupted aspect of Twilight to seek you out. She is implementing us to carry out her will for the time being.
Vladimir waved his hand, and his followers disbanded. He motioned for the 2 celestial anomalies to ensue, bringing them before a throne constructed of bones. Vladimir sat atop it, resting his elbow on one of the armrests pensively.
Oh, would you look at that?
Twitch gasped in awe, breaking the silence. Beside Vladimir's elevated seat of death, a gleaming silver mirror rippled ominously.
Shiny!
The feeble-minded rodent muttered to himself, unable to halt his greedy steps toward the sparkling treasure.
Twitch! What do you think you're doing?
Urgot growled menacingly. Vladimir watched on, entertained by the rat's pig-headed avarice. The played creature's grimy claws caressed the precious wall ornament. Without warning, the pale face of the Black Rose's matron, Leblanc the Deceiver, appeared. Twitch squeaked in surprise and slithered behind Urgot, cowering behind him as he tried to process the shock and steel his rapidly beating heart. Leblanc chimed.
This is a surprise, headsman. Risen from the wretched dredge to exact your revenge?
Urgot scowled.
Not quite.
Clearing his throat, Vladimir inquired curiously.
Then pray tell, wherefore hast the aspect of twilight sent such an odious creature and mephitic vermin to my lair?
Clearly your hemomancy reputation precedes you. Zoe requests you bestow us immortality in order to defeat the Star Guardians. Their numbers are growing, and soon they will liberate the entire galaxy from all forms of tyranny and chaos.
Urgot enlightened.
Well, we most certainly cannot allow that, now can we, Vlad?
Leblanc pouted.
Indubitably.
Vlad concurred and snapped his fingers promptly. 6 devout cult members filed before Vladimir, bowing with their faces to the ground before him. Vladimir rose from his cathedra and outstretched his hands over the worshippers.
Oh, I love this part.
Leblanc stated as she leapt out of the mirror in an ethereal image of herself and plopped down onto Vladimir's seat of sovereignty. He preached.
Your utmost devotion and loyalty to the Crimson Circle has been recognized. I hereby ordain you, exalted priests of the afterlife. Receive my blessing!
The blessing is ours!
They cried out in unison. Vladimir jerked his arms above his head, and in one quick motion, a bubble of blood had formed in midair. No one in the room flinched or blinked twice as he casually began to use the blood to paint esoteric symbols and markings onto the floor amidst the corpses before his throne.
Come hither, plague rat,
Vladimir called upon, completing his masterpiece, extending an open palm toward the Star Guardians. Twitch was hesitant, seeking confirmation from Urgot. The dreadnought refused to meet his eyes. Slightly pained, Twitch mustered up enough courage to approach the Reaper. Vladimir patted his furry head and walked several circles around him, delivering a monologue.
Mind you, I am no typical creature of the night. I am more than capable of supplying you with what you seek. To my dismay, this ritual could most certainly come back to bite me. As much as I delight in biting, however, it is less desirable when I am the one being bitten. Have you no form of insurance you can bestow upon me that will ensure a pact between us?
Urgot rummaged into a secret compartment in one of his legs and chucked a linen pouch at Vladimir.
Not insurance, but payment.
Urgot explained. Leblanc teleported behind Urgot and scoffed, disgusted, into his ear. Vladimir let the bag of valuable coins and gems fall to the floor. They clinked as they rolled away, some of them shattering from the impact. Twitch scurried after the commodities, stuffing whatever he could salvage into his pockets. Vladimir wailed, stopping in his tracks.
You offend me. Everlasting life cannot be bought.
He paused for a moment and eyed Twitch a bit more closely. The covetous vermin giddily bounced around, listening to the sound of the jewels and metals jingling in his trousers. Vladimir floated curiously over to the rat and negotiated.
Albeit unnecessary for the transformation, I dare say I cannot recall a time when I have ever had the taste of rodent grace my lips. I cannot at all fathom it being pleasant. However, my curiosity confounds me. Allow me a measly sip of your life force, and I'll pardon your transgressions.
Vlad, sweetie, Surely we can bargain for something a little more befitting.
LeBlanc cooed seductively as she swirled around him. Vladimir ignored his comrade and tilted Twitch's chin skyward with his talon-like nails. An unperceivable cold sweat began to run down Urgot's neck at the thought of Vladimir's imaginings.
What say you, Zal Knight?
Vladimir coaxed hungrily. Twitch trembled, his breaths catching in his throat beneath the ancient noble's icy touch.
You must be vocal, for your silence is in no way a disavowal.
Vladimir grinned, a pair of intimidating fangs now protruding from his mouth. Trepidation had since taken hold of the once rambunctious rat, now nothing more than a meek mouse. He couldn't find his voice for the life of him. Vladimir leaned forward, edging closer and closer, his eyes set on Twitch's jugular.
Wait! I can bring you the corpse of the Grand General's six-eyed raven!
Urgot exclaimed, bringing a halt to Vladimir's movements. LeBlanc hovered over to Urgot and sprawled over his shoulder.
I'm listening.
She encouraged, her interest obviously piqued. Urgot glared at her, but continued.
Turn only me for the time being. We'll go retrieve that blasted corvid, and when we return with it deceased, you can follow through with the rest of the bargain and turn Twitch too.
Vladimir contemplated aloud.
Indeed, that crow seems to be the well of demonic energy from which Swain draws from, is it not?
LeBlanc squealed exuberantly.
Ooh, I've been yearning to see Swain squirm for a while now. Of course, seeing that chauvinistic cretin croak would be the ultimate form of satisfaction. But this proposal is a close second. Who's to say if it will sever, destroy, or even hinder his current source of power? But regardless, there's no way he'd be at all pleased losing his beloved birdie. You've got yourself a deal.
Urgot hurried to position himself between Vladimir and Twitch, nudging the rodent with one of his legs to move away from the blood-stained floor. Vladimir tapped his temple in thought over the recent turn of events, his expression displeased, but he swiftly recomposed himself.
Very well then.
Vladimir conceded and returned to his place before his cathedra.
I call upon the ancients, the sacred bloodline imbued with perennial vitality, from generation to generation, awoken from slumber by my creed in this age. I bequeath unto you this everlasting contract. Receive it willingly and allow it to teem through your veins, asphyxiating you in its impregnable stupor from this day forth!
The vermilion liquid, splattered beneath Urgot, evaporated off the floor, only to rain back down over his skin, sinking into his pores. An eerie red glow lingering on the spots where the droplets seeped through his epidermis. Urgot collapsed abruptly, holding his throat in utter agony, sputtering and coughing as he tried to inhale through his mask.
What's wrong?
Twitch screeched, hurrying over, placing a comforting paw on his shoulder.
He has had many upgrades and modifications to his corporeal body. However, some of him remains flesh. It is those corruptible mortal organs still reliant on oxygen and blood flow that are shutting down. The lungs undoubtedly are the most excruciating. It is the only way. He must die before he is reborn.
Vladimir clarified, matter-of-factly. Twitch stammered.
Die?
The rodent searched Urgot's face for a sign, whether to remain or run. Then, in a flash, Urgot ripped off his mask and screamed gutturally, as if he was breathing his last. Skittish and validated by what he had just witnessed, Twitch backed away from the scene, fading into the shadows as Urgot's writhing finally ceased. Being the sneaky he is, Twitch managed to slink once more to the roof, undetected. Defeated and discouraged, he moped around a while, unable to come to terms with Urgot's death. Before the rancid rat realized it, the blistering Noxian sun was peeking over the horizon, shaking him from slumber. He rolled over so that the sun was to his back, but as he did so, he came face to face with Urgot laying beside him.
Urgot! Is that really you?
Twitch exclaimed, shooting up to a sitting position as he rubbed the sleep from his eyes. The dreadnought grumbled quietly, but refused to stir. Urgot's skin was more radiant than before, his body brimming with a new unfathomable power. Twitch had never really seen his companion without his mask before, though. It's not that Urgot was unrecognizable, but the sight was something different. The curious critter couldn't help but run his palm against the side of Urgot's cheek. Instantly, the now undead Star Guardian's eyes flew open. The Zaunite humanoid wrestled with the rat until he had his butcher-like hand on the back of the vermin's neck, dangling him in the air frivolously. Twitch's shrill voice could be heard from several blocks away as he thrashed about, unable to shake Urgot's grip from the scruff of his neck.
I wouldn't go so far to say that I particularly like you, Mouse, although I do value, to a certain extent, your company on our seemingly endless space travels. However, do not think for a single moment I will not kill you myself for overstepping your bounds.
I was just worried. I didn't know what was happening to you down there. But I'm really glad you're okay.
Twitch griped, fumbling over his words. Urgot groaned and set him back on his feet and held his aching head in his hands, drained from the previous night's events. The next thing Urgot knew, there were a pair of scrawny limbs hugging one of his mechanical legs. Twitch mumbled almost incoherently.
Thanks, you really saved me back there. I don't know how I'm going to repay you, but I'm grateful for what you did for me.
The former Noxian tried not to reel back or cringe by the overt display of affection. Instead, he simply patted the sentimental rodent's hunchback in acknowledgement.
Come on, we have a crow to cook.
Urgot smirked humorously. Twitch pulled his arms back into his chest and started wringing his hands excitedly. He sneered deviously.
You mean a raven to roast?
A fowl to fry.
Urgot supplemented, nodding.
A bird to baste?
Twitch squealed with delight. Urgot chuckled lightheartedly.
Yes, my friend, precisely.
The two unlikely Star Guardians took to the sky, headed for the Imperial Palace. Nothing but bloodshed and vengeance on their minds.